Welcome to the very first episode of the UnDieted Podcast with Melissa and my co-host,
Rebecca.
Today, we're going to be giving a little introduction about ourselves and talk about what is diet culture and are you stuck in it, and why we've started this podcast in the first place. My name's Melissa. I've been a health and fitness coach since 2016, and I have been helping women break free from dieting and taking a holistic approach to weight loss and building a lifestyle that they can sustain.
Yeah, I'm Rebecca. I'm a registered social worker and mental health therapist since 2017. And I've been working alongside, many individuals who are struggling with disordered eating and having to navigate the world with so many diet cultures and advice that is roaming not only their society, but social media too.
Rebecca and I started this podcast. It was born over conversations. We were having great conversations by phone. And one day said, you know what? These conversations need to be recorded. This message has to get out there. People must hear these things, especially women who are seeking for weight loss, but they just don't know where to start.
For sure. And over the span of these conversations, we've talked about as well how so many women and men are so lost in this whole diet culture, and that it really does impact them not only from like a health standpoint, but from a mental health standpoint as well.
100%. And I feel that the biggest problem in 2024 is that social media, you scroll and every video is a new opinion, a different approach to weight loss, but it really comes back to you, your lifestyle, and your specific body. So the way one person achieves weight loss may not be right for you. And when we come from a restrictive approach, it is never good because it is you'll always regain the weight. A little bit about myself. I lost 50 pounds 2 times. The first time I lost weight, I was dieting and heavily restricting. I lost the weight very fast. And this was kind of encouraged by comments I would get from family members. People would make comments about my weight, which put me in a state of shame. And I was very desperate to just lose the weight so that I could look better. So I took a restrictive approach, lost the weight. Because I couldn't sustain that lifestyle, I put all the weight back on, plus an additional 15 pounds. This really affected my mental health. I was afraid to go out. I didn't want anyone who had seen my weight loss see the weight regain now, because what are they going to say? They were already making comments before. And now they're going to say, look at her, she gained all the weight back. So there was social distancing. It was a really bad time. And then I started to take the approach of getting to know myself, building regular activity in my daily life, adjusting my food bit by bit, and really trying to build that lifestyle that I could sustain. And I have been maintaining my second weight loss for the past 15 years. And I maintain a healthy weight. I have 4 children, so I lost the weight prior to my kids. So even after all my pregnancies, I maintain my pre-pregnancy weight because this is my lifestyle. And that's what I want other women to learn how to do too.
And Melissa, I appreciate your story because it's a story that I've heard from many people, and many of like my friends and family, like where they struggle with not only like restriction or binge eating or bulimia like symptoms, and it just only results in this cycle of feeling never good enough, and obviously like it impacts their body as well. And that's
100%.
where with this podcast we hope as well to give a lot of psychoeducation, and also like from your field as well, Melissa, a lot of tips and psychoeducation on how to overcome not only diet culture, but also the things that influence us to want to restrict or engage in disordered eating.
Right. My personal experience, I feel, helps me the most in this field because I was where a lot of people are that I want to help. So it really gives me that understanding and empathy and compassion to know where they're coming from. And I was stuck in diet culture myself. For a very long time, and it's that shiny object, that quick fix, so we'll talk about what diet culture is exactly,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll start there. So from my perspective, it's a system of beliefs that you're going to get a fast result. And I feel anything with a label, you shouldn't have to label your lifestyle because it should be your own personal lifestyle. So anything now, there's keto, carnivore, hyper keto, all of these different types of diets. And I can appreciate that some people feel good eating a low carb or a no carb diet, and that is fine for that particular person. Where I have a problem is when people see that that person is thriving in their lifestyle and they're looking for weight loss and they say, well, I'm just going to do that because that person got XYZ. So
And yeah, I would say that's the interesting part of how social media is like almost like increasing the presence of diets or putting them on the spotlight because social media never shows someone struggling. It never shows someone who's like going backwards. It just keeps showing the good stuff about those diets when in reality,
right.
like
And
some
a
of
lot
these
of
diets are not sustainable. Sorry, Melissa.
no, a lot of influencers on social media, you're looking at their chapter 14 when you're at chapter 1.
Yeah.
So you want to be where they are. And I've had people comment that, I've probably never had a weight issue or it's easy for me. So there's a lot of those um, mindset barriers based on failed quick fix diets that you've done in the past. So we want to take you out of that. So examples of diet culture would be labeling foods as good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you're on a health journey doesn't mean that you can't have chocolate, doesn't mean that you can't have chips, but
Yeah.
in moderation. And when you restrict yourself, you want those foods even more and you eat them even more, right?
Yeah.
So
And that I see with like individuals that I work with that are struggling with binge eating is that that label is there. Then they try to push that urge to have that one piece of chocolate, and then it ends up being like a bag or two bags of chocolate, right?
yeah.
Because they're restricting that urge, that need to want to have a treat, and that's okay. Like for me in my practice, I do use a lot of intuitive eating, which is, like it's okay to have something if you feel that you need it, right? And I think that's what's missing in the diet culture, unfortunately. It's like, just don't have it.
It's don't have it or save it for your cheat day. When I removed
Yes.
cheat days out of my life, I had a better relationship with food because if I want cake, 2 days ago, we went to a bakery and we got key lime pie and a lemon meringue. I had myself a nice piece of lemon meringue pie after dinner, and then you move on. But say I would have said, no, no, I can't have that and leave it in the fridge. I'm either going to go into the fridge when no one's looking and eat it and eat more than I would have before, or I'm going to overeat it when I finally do eat it. It's better. You can have all foods. That one dessert is not going to ruin anything for you. You eat
Yes.
it and you move on.
Yeah. And it's also okay, I think that's where like diet culture tends to have so many strict rules, which ends up being like a huge trigger for most of my clients. Like they identify that, like having these strict rules of what they can't have and what they should have is almost like being back in an abusive relationship or
Exactly.
or being back in a household that was so like, authoritative, like, no, you shouldn't have that. And it could be really like damaging for someone's mental health, and it could also impact someone, especially who
Yeah.
has a trauma background.
Yeah. I used to get those comments about, when we'd have Easter or Thanksgiving dinner and I was seen with maybe more dessert than I should have had, comments were made to me at a young age,
Mm-hmm.
very young age.
Mm-hmm.
So that carried through. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not very good. Did you want to add anything else to what describing what diet culture is?
The only thing I would probably add is that, like, obviously, like diet culture, any diet, there is no long-term good treatment outcome. It always ends on the person, not meeting whatever the diet has called for, and then sometimes switching to another diet,
Yes.
which continues the
Classic.
cycle.
Classic. Yes. So let's move on to talking about how do you know that you're stuck in diet culture? So the top one is that you feel guilty when you eat certain foods. You should never feel guilty. You're always chasing the number on the scale.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm also a fitness coach, and when women are working out and lifting weights, there's a body recomposition where fat is leaving the body and you're building muscle. So you're trading those two body compositions. Muscle weighs more than body fat.
Mm-hmm.
So I have comparisons of two clients where she's actually 7 pounds heavier than when she started. But if you look at her body, it's leaner. So the
Mm-hmm.
scale is a very small tool, measuring tool. It is
Mm-hmm.
not healthy, in my opinion, to step on it every day. If you want to check your weight every so often, once a month, maybe
Yeah.
you want to check yourself, or you don't have to check any at all. I remember, Rebecca, you telling me
Yeah.
stories that some of your clients have come in and handed you the scale and said, I don't want this anymore.
Yes. So for everyone, like, I'll give you a bit of history. Like when I first started my practice, like 8 years ago, it's been, oh my gosh, I feel old. Um, I used to tell my clients, like, you can gift me your scale. You can send it to me. And I used to have like, it was like someone abandoning like a baby at an orphanage. Like I'd hear a knock on the door. I'd open the door. I'd be like, hello. And I look down and there's like a lonely scale just sitting there. I'd be like, yes. And you know what? I mean, I agree. Like having that number on the scale doesn't, well, number one, the scale does not tell you, how you are health wise. Number two, it also is like, we can go on about this for 5 hours, but like the number doesn't reflect how you are doing in your health journey. It's just a number,
Right.
right? And that's where, for a lot of people, that obsessive compulsive behavior of having to check their weight every morning, every day, sometimes even 5 times a day, can be really damaging to their mental health. It can impact their self esteem.
Mm-hmm. I've had clients that I've helped stop weighing themselves daily. So what I do is we go from daily to weekly, and then I prefer the monthly. But I had someone tell me that, oh, yesterday I ate a burger. Today I'm 2 pounds heavier. That's
Mm,
so okay. Let's unpack this. Let's talk about what you ate. And to gain 1 pound, you have to overeat by 3,500 calories.
yeah,
So eating a burger is not 7,000 calories to put you up. And that's the thing
yeah,
with our weight, especially women, our body weight fluctuates even week to week, depending on our menstrual cycle.
yes,
So it is really a I like taking photos, front, side, and back to measure your progress, and measurements, body measurements, the scale, put it in your closet so it's not on the floor. You're not tempted to step on it every morning, and just put it away.
yeah.
So that is one piece of how you might telling you that you might be stuck in diet culture. Well, that's two. You're overly focused on burning off calories. So you're no longer enjoying movement. You're just doing it because you need to burn off those calories.
Hmm.
And again, when we come back to building a lifestyle that you can sustain, if you overdo it, I hear this all the time. I'm just going to do this until I lose the weight. If you
Oh,
start off and you're working out 2 hours a day. You can't sustain that. So when you stop, your body and your metabolism is all going to adjust. It's all related. So you really have to start
Yeah.
slow. When you build that foundation, that lifestyle foundation, you start building from there. It's like a staircase. You take one step at a
Yes.
time instead of jumping 5 steps at a time.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, that's where it's like, it makes me sad to hear people that feel like they are trapped in this cycle of having to work out because it's leading them to a goal of like, weight loss, because like there's so many benefits to exercise that we often forget about. We forget about like how it does increase endorphins. It's really good as a treatment for depression. And that people don't know that there's different types of movement that isn't going to the gym, like, dancing in front of your mirror,
100%.
dancing with your toddler. That's what I do right now. It's just like, I think that's where it's like, even that connotation that exercise will always be part of weight loss is very sad, because we're taking away as well why movement can be really joyful. It
Right.
can be really good for our mental health.
Hiking. My husband, for example, he prefers biking, hiking to the gym. He finds a
Yeah.
treadmill very, very boring. So it's tapping into that and discovering what you like to do and opening your mindset to the different types of movement that
Yes.
exist. So it's just about building an active lifestyle. We live in a world where we're very sedentary more than ever, because before they used to walk everywhere. Now everything comes to us.
That's very true.
Amazon shows up the next day, everything's there. You don't even have to get in your car to go to the store if you don't want to. So we keep cutting back movement of things that we're so used to doing. So it's important to build a active lifestyle. The last one in this section is what you had mentioned: if you're stuck in a cycle of starting and quitting diets. Okay.
Yes.
One fails, you're looking for another one, you're looking for the different one. Oh, so and so is doing Optivia, Nutri-System, nothing with a name,
Oh, I
your
know.
own personal lifestyle.
And it's sad because every time someone has to restart a diet or they end up failing in a diet, it's like a punch to their self-esteem. It's like, and that sets like a cycle of feeling like you're a failure, like guilt, like shame, all these different emotions. And I, it's funny. Like, I talk to clients who have grown up in households that were pushing diets, and they would always comment like, "Mom was always on a different diet, like throughout my whole life,"
Yeah,
or "Dad was always on this diet, failed, went back on another diet," and it's really sad. But like, when we look at even how kids are taking in this, we have to also be mindful that kids are taking in all this, and seeing that you know they have to meet a certain standard, and it's very sad. Like, what about just being good as who you are, right?
that's right. So when you have someone who's looking for weight loss, what's your best advice for them?
So I dig a bit deeper as a therapist. I basically, go, oh, okay, tell me a bit about, your family growing up. How is your self-esteem growing up? How's your self-esteem right now? How's your self-worth? How do you feel in relationships? How do you feel at work? I kind of like go like deep dive, underneath
That's
the
really
water.
important. Yes,
Yeah.
because it's not just simply losing weight. There's always layers under the onion layers, if you will. You got to peel them back. And
Yeah,
your behaviors, they come from something.
it's very true. And Melissa, for yourself, like, do you often look at those variables as well?
I do. Yes. So I have an exercise that's called parts, and it's, we evaluate the family and things that were said,
Yeah.
how because often one question that I ask in my client intake form is finding out right from the beginning, are the people around you going to be supportive?
Hmm.
Oftentimes when someone is trying to make a change in their life and others don't, I work with women, so I've had the husband try to self-sabotage, you know, oh, just have
Yes.
this with me, it's okay, and this and that. So it's important to see who's in your life and who's going to be.
Yeah.
And sometimes the really hard part is that you have to change the 5 people that you spend the most time with, depending on their behaviors. It doesn't mean you have to go cutting all these
Yeah.
people out. If
Yes.
you want to change your lifestyle, you have to hang around people who have a similar lifestyle that you want to engage in.
Yes.
Maybe you make friends with someone, you go to a yoga class, or you go to the gym and you make friends with someone there, and then you guys do stuff together and have healthy
Yeah.
activities. So there's a lot of change and transformation that has to take place
Yeah.
to change
And
your current situation.
And I would even comment, Melissa, like we can deep dive into this in another episode if viewers are interested. But like, for the people that, are like, I don't want to cut off my mom because she's always on diets now. And I don't want to cut off like my best friend who keeps talking about diets or keeps, analyzing her body and it's really triggering for me. We can also set boundaries with those people. We don't have to cut them out of our life forever. We can say, listen, I'm trying to follow a journey that's good for me. And I'm finding these comments very triggering, right? So we can expand on that on another episode. But, they actually do say in the addiction community that once you quit an addiction, sometimes, sadly enough, you have to also quit the people associated with that addiction.
100%.
And I think that all depends on the individual's like circle, right? Like if one person's like, no, this person's not good for me, then you have to also question like, oh, is this relationship abusive? Like, is this relationship toxic? But obviously, too, there's also a way of saying, okay, like, I salvage the relationship by setting boundaries. Will they respect my boundaries, etc. Right? So,
Yes.
yeah,
And you can be the example to these
yeah,
people. So you set your boundaries, you rebuild your lifestyle and show them what's possible without
yes,
diet culture. And you
yes,
show them what it's like to break free from the diet culture, which is our next point. Um, People will ask me, well, how do women achieve weight loss if they're not tracking or counting their calories? You have to know what you're taking in. So the issue that I have with calorie tracking is that your energy needs are different from day to day. So
hmm,
food is energy and your movement is energy. So on days where, say, I'm more active or I train lower body, that's a larger muscle group. I'm going to be hungrier on that day than on a rest day. So, what happens when you have a calorie count cap is the day that you had a lot of activity, you're hungrier. Now, in your mind, you're going over your calories. So, you ruined your day. And then on the day you're not as hungry, you feel you have to fill in that gap.
yes,
But instead of just feeling your own hunger and what your energy needs are for the day instead of chasing this number of a calorie. So I teach the magic plate method. And
hmm,
this is making sure that each plate is balanced. And again, it's an 80-20 rule. Not
yes,
everything you eat has to be a magic plate.
yes,
80% of the time, because what happens when you build your plates, for example, French toast. You want to have
yeah,
French toast? Many people think they can't have French toast if they want to lose weight. So imagine the plate. I think next time I want to show slides to show an example. Say
yeah,
you have a plate of French toast with 3 slices of French toast and syrup. Okay, that's plate number one. The other plate is 2 scrambled eggs, 1 piece of French toast, some berries, and a fruit. And you can add
yeah.
maple syrup, or sometimes I like to take my chocolate protein powder and mix it with water and make a syrup with that.
Ah, nice.
Which plate is going to satisfy you more? The magic plate, because protein helps with your hunger and balancing your blood sugar rather than just having three
Yeah.
pieces of toast with maple syrup. So you start to see these differences. I show you these differences and you start to see, you know what, I feel better eating like this, but you're not lacking because you're still eating the French toast,
Yeah,
right? You're just
exactly.
building your plates in a way that'll help you balance your blood sugar. Because what happens when you oftentimes we go through the Tim Hortons or Dunkin' Donut drive through on our way to work. We grab a donut and coffee, a bagel and coffee. The problem with starting like that is that you're going to spike your blood sugar. And then when it crashes, you're craving. And then it does
Mhm.
that all day long. Now you can have a bagel but with added protein, so we just work with
Yeah,
that. So I teach this magic plate method. It's very effective. It's how I lost 50 pounds and have been maintaining it for the past 15 years. You go to a family member's house, you can build a magic plate. You go to a potluck, you can build a magic plate. You go to the restaurant, you can order a magic plate. I have a
yeah,
client who's down 18 pounds, and she wrote to me that for the first time, this was when she was halfway through, that for the first time she went out to a restaurant, she didn't order salad and she didn't feel guilty.
okay.
So that's the notion that you think that you go out to eat and you can only have a salad.
But then a salad, like, well, I gotta quote old school Simpsons, you don't make friends with salad. You gotta add something with the salad. You have to like, salad is just a
Right?
side.
Yes. So,
Babies would
I
appreciate that reference.
yeah. So when you break free from diet culture and you're open to a more sustainable approach, learning to eat and listen to your body, learning to build magic plates, you have improved energy, you help balance your hormones. For us women that are, 35 and over, we've had our kids and you see a lot of weight gain after the last child.
Yes.
And this is because you have a lot less activity. I'm home with my kids. So I was
Yeah.
running around. And then all of a sudden, you're not doing that anymore. Your kids become independent. They start doing things on their own. So you're not doing as much for them. And your
Yes.
hormones change and so on and so forth. And you just become more sedentary.
Yeah.
You start to put on weight. So I help a lot of women now 35 and up just really build that active sustainable lifestyle in what I call the 2.0 era. So you
Yeah.
help balance your hormones and then you have a better relationship with food and movement. When I was in diet culture, if I ate ice cream or cake, the next day I had to do my exercise.
Which we want to break that cycle because like there is that like in a way restrictive nature that you must
That
do movement immediately after, which is
yeah,
not true,
no,
right?
you know,
Yeah.
today is a rest day for me. I'm not doing any type of movement and I'm just relaxing, giving my body a break. And it's so freeing.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
everyone listening, you deserve that freedom. You deserve
Exactly.
freedom from diets, searching for weight loss. You deserve freedom from movement, any type of diet with a title. You deserve that kind of freedom. And that's something that's really important to Rebecca and I. And this is why
Yeah.
we want to have these conversations um, to help you.
For sure. And you know what? Like that's what also led us to also making this podcast is like we've had so many side conversations, talking about how like we see like people struggling with this on a daily basis and it can be a prison. People can feel so trapped within their own bodies sometimes, having to
Yeah.
follow these strict rules and these strict regimens, when life should be better than that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, on social media, it's so hard to I just want to yell through the phone, don't do it. Every time I see a
Yeah,
video, today's day 3 of 75 hard. No, no, please.
I know. Every time I scroll, like let's say the what do I eat in a day, I'm like, oh no, please don't. I'm like, it just like I guess that's where a lot of my clients find social media to be super triggering sometimes. That it leads them to like seeing these things and they go, wait, I should be doing that. The comparison taking starts
Yeah.
building up. right?
And those what I eat in a day videos where there's a body shot at the beginning. So two people can eat the exact same way and they won't look the same.
Exactly. Yeah.
You
Yes.
have people out there that are naturally muscular. They never work out and they have abs. So we're all
Yes.
different. And you have to
Exactly.
embrace that difference, love yourself, accept yourself the way that you are, and really stop comparing, because comparison is a thief of joy in any
Yes.
aspect of your life, work, relationship, body image, anything. You don't want to compare two people.
Of course. Yeah. And that's where, like if you could take one thing from this first episode of the podcast is that everyone has their own individual journey and that it's okay. We're all having our differences in individuals. Like, and that is something that we want you to like almost take in is that, your journey is the most important. Don't compare your journey to everybody else's. Your journey is yours. And it's
Yeah.
an honor to be on that journey.
Yes. Do you have anything to add? I'm going to give some homework to the listeners.
Ooh, okay. I always love doing homework. I think the only thing I would add is that, obviously, like for those that are struggling with like secondary conditions like diabetes or like heart disease, I think Melissa and I would both say this is like always check with your health professional
Yes.
on, what they would recommend for your treatment.
Yes. Yeah. You work with a registered dietitian and to get the advice that you need. It's very important that when you have a chronic illness that you're not following advice from the internet,
Oh yeah, for sure.
right?
I think we definitely have to add that disclaimer in.
Can make yourself sick. All right. So walking away from this, I want you to practice ditching the scale. Anyone who's still weighing themselves, ditch the scale. We'll be back in 2 weeks with episode number 2. So ditch the scale until then. Try to reframe your food as fuel. Okay. You need that energy to sustain yourself. Food is fuel. And movement is not punishment. It is a reward. You have a privilege. There are people that can't walk, they can't move their arms. They have so feel privileged that you are in the ability to move your body freely every day and just enjoy movement. And
Yes.
surround yourself with a supportive community.
Now, to the listeners as well, if you ever want to send us like photos like via our social media handles, we'd love to see it. Um, Obviously, if you're thinking of giving away your scale, maybe don't abandon it at a random therapist office. Maybe you can give it to a Goodwill or Value Village for my Canadian listeners. Um, uh, Somewhere that, it could be, you know,
Yes. All right. Thank you for listening, everyone. And we'll see you back in 2 weeks.